Hi everyone, Laura at Broken Wind. Today, not in the workshop. I'm here in my spare room and our sort of working, studying kind of area to answer some of your questions. So I said before I was going to do a Q&A. This is it. This is answering any questions that have been put to me during the clarinet repair series, and I will do my best to answer them for you. So, starting in no particular order, these are just as I've jotted them down while looking through the different videos and all the comments. I've got some names, so sorry if I miss your name off, but hopefully I've got your question in there anyway. So one is Kathleen Collins. Hello in Melbourne, Australia. G'day. You want to know about my Tigers hat. Now, you're not the first, and I'm sure you won't be the last. I had quite a few comments during the Great Guitar Build-Off, actually, about my baseball cap choice. I think you're referring to this specimen. Now, I wear this with pride. Just stick him on. There we are. My Fab Tigers hat. I own him because I married an Australian. My other half is from a few hours north of Melbourne, and when we first went out years ago, I said I wanted to go and watch AFL, as I played rugby for about 10 years, and so I've always been interested with the AFL, sort of different but similar game. And we went to go and watch Tigers versus Hawthorn. Now, this was years ago, and Tigers had their arses handed to them, to put it politely, by Hawthorn. They lost by a lot of points, and me being the good Brit wanting to support the underdog, I guess, I sat there surrounded by Hawthorn supporters shouting on for Tigers. So I decided to support them because they were useless back then, and turns out they got better. Yay, go Tigers. And yes, I did hear that they've won the Premiership again. Hurrah, much to the upset of my mother-in-law, who I think supports Essendon. I should probably know that. Anyway, hopefully that answers the Aussie link questions. I married one. Right. Enough about that, back to actual instrument questions. So, there's quite a few questions from a lovely lady called Bethan. Now, I think it might be worth us having a shout sometime anyway, Bethan. You've got a lot of questions about wanting to do this as a career. Good on you, brilliant. Always good to get more repairers in the world. And I think where to start and what to do depends where you are in the world. I'm not sure if you've mentioned that or have missed it. But feel free to drop me an email, brokenwind@live.co.uk. We can talk in more detail. But this links in with some other people asking where I train. So I actually did a degree in London. I went to what started as the London Guildhall University, but by the time I graduated, it was actually London Metropolitan University, which is what it is now. And I have a first class honours BSc in musical instrument technology. The degree depended on what subjects you chose, and I'm very science and maths and physics based, so I did the BSc route, and that's the qualification I came out with after those 3 years. I then went to the fabulous Dawkes Music, that's DAWKES, which is based in Maidenhead in the UK, and they are an incredible family-run business, and I was thrown into their workshop straight out of uni, and I did an apprenticeship with them for a couple of years and learned so much. So much of the stuff I'd done at uni was very theoretical, whereas going in with them, they were very obviously practical and hands-on and making the best repair in sort of time constraints and keeping on task and the best way to do things in the practical sense. So anyone wanting to learn, there are some good books out there, and in all honesty, I've tried to find them because I had a few that got me through uni, but I don't know where they are. And if my dad's watching this, he's probably shouting at me saying, they're in the loft with all your other stuff. But I will try and fish them out, and when I do, I will update you, particularly Bethan, on what you can read about. Someone else asked, let me see if I can find whether if it was worth, I think it was Alan, a lovely chap called Alan, asked if it's worth buying cheap instruments to learn on. Well, yeah, why not? If you've got the time and a bit of money to buy an instrument to have a go on, there's no harm in it. It's not, you know, I wouldn't suggest trying to do it to sell it or anything, because, you know, you've probably got a lot to learn, in all honesty. Unless you're from a different background, you might be very good at it. I don't want to judge anybody, but you'll probably see from the clarinet video there's a lot of sort of hidden bits that you have to learn as you go. And I mean, I'm 36 now, so, you know, I've been doing this quite a while. Having finished university at 21, finished my apprenticeship at 23, started my business 12 years ago, so I've got a few clarinet repairs under the belt, shall we say. But yeah, Alan asked, yeah, is it worth buying cheap to learn on them? Yes, you can. Do it. Buy something cheap and nasty. Preferably not too nasty, so it doesn't have any weird key setups, or some of the really nasty stuff isn't made to be repaired at all. It's horrible. Some things, people have, you know, they've been had a bit on the internet, things come to them and they come into me, they say, oh, it's not working, and I look at it and it's not made to be repaired. I can't get screws out, there's pillars in the way, and they're just nasty. So maybe try and get an old second-hand, slightly better known make. So for like clarinet, maybe a Buffet or a Yamaha or an old Selma, or some of the old Boozy and Hawk Regents and things. They're kicking around for not too much, because they've been superseded now. So you can get one of those, and what I'd suggest doing first of all is just strip it down. Don't do anything to it, don't do anything mechanical, just take it all apart and then get it back together again, and do that a few times. Learn your way around the instrument before you actually even try to do anything like corks or felts or padding. That takes a bit to do, but just, you know, learn your way around it is what I would suggest if that's what you want to do as a hobby. Fabulous, crack on. Let me go back, see where I'm at. Armando, he had a couple of questions. He missed, does each key have a different size screw? No, not necessarily. Some keys are held on differently. I think it might have been my first part when I took it apart. Maybe go back and watch part 1, Armando. There are some screws that are rod screws that go all the way through, and they sort of suspend the key between pillar to pillar with the rod going through it, so it rotates on the rod. Or there are ones which are point screws, pivot screws, where they're literally one at each end, and the key is suspended in the middle of the two screws, and pivots on the point of the screw, hence pivot screws, point screws. So yeah, they are different, and I don't keep the screws together. I tend to take the key off, and if it's a rod screw, when I take the key off, I put the rod screw back in the key, so that the screw is in the key, separate on my table. Or if it's the little pivot ones, I take the screw out, take the key off, and I put the screw back in the pillar. You can get little screw boards and things where they have it labelled. I should have brought one up to show you. I've got one for a bassoon, I think is the only one I own. And they have the keys marked on them, and then you can put the screws in the relevant places on there. But to be honest, I don't really like them. I don't use them. They get in my way. My bench is quite small. It's just the size of, it's actually an old computer desk, old pine computer desk that I sort of rehashed. So surface area isn't that big. So for me, also I've been doing this long enough now that I don't use them because I just know what goes where. Some are different sizes as in length, because depending how the key is held on, if it's a pivot screw, they go in, they're generally of a size for that make of instrument. The same with point screws, there'll be like a certain type of one that goes on that instrument. But the rod screws, they do vary in length, and diameter tends to be the same on the clarinet. But again, they'll differ from make to make, so you won't find that a Yamaha one mightn't fit into a Buffet one, and vice versa, or Jupiter, or all the different makes around. So hopefully that answers those questions for you. Ray J, back on the theme for screws, is there any reason why the screws have slotted heads? If they were Phillips, etc., you'd be less likely to slip. Fair point. They're all made with just normal flat head screwdriver application, as it were. They've all just got the slot in them. It's just the way they've always been. I did slip in a couple of my videos, you'll see, partly because I have a sentimental attachment to that little screwdriver. If I actually had a screwdriver that still had corners on it, I probably would slip less because the blade would fill. However, that screwdriver, I think I mentioned in maybe my first video, a friend of mine bought me a set for my 18th birthday when I headed off to uni. and they're still going strong, and that one I'm still determined to use it even though it's really quite worn down. So that might answer that. Do I ever use power tools like a Dremel? No, not on repairing, in all honesty. I do use it. You see me use it quite a lot in my my guitar building video, and I do love my Dremel. It's really handy. I have used it, actually, I do lie, I have used it occasionally with the polishing tool on to polish where I've done some soldering maybe, just because it's quicker and can get in fiddly areas where my finger maybe can't, but I don't use it in general for repairing. I just use very much hand-based things because you've got a lot more control than that. And talking about hands, how often do I cut myself? Not very often, in all honesty. Over the years I have a lot. When I was starting out I would. If I'm trying to rush I might do a bit more, might slip. But generally no, I'm, touch wood, pretty good at wielding the old single edge razor blade now, or double edge razor blade rather, split in half. I know it freaked a few people out. A few people commented on the way I did it and the speed in which I did it, but oh, sorry, wobbling you there. I got my foot caught in the extension lead. Oops. Yeah, so I don't tend to cut myself too often. The worst thing I do is impale myself on needle springs. Oh, yeah, because that is purely accidental. Like with the razor, you've got a bit more control because you obviously both hands. But I find when I'm like ragging to clean something or trying to get keys on and things, and the little needle springs on clarinets, oboes are the worst because they're just so fine and thin that without realising you've pierced yourself on those. So if, in all honesty, that probably happens more regularly than me cutting myself. So hopefully that's answered some questions. There's quite a few more to go. I will do another video shortly, maybe released tomorrow, depending how I get on with my editing. But in the meantime, please like, comment, subscribe, share the Broken Wind love on social media, and I will speak to you again soon.